Hello and welcome to Monkey's Paperpalooza Craft Corner. Today we are going to go into part 2 of our My Monthly Hero September 2018 kit, which is this beautiful autumn themed kit out by Hero Arts for this month. It is currently, to my knowledge, still in stock. So let's start with card number 1. So for this card, I am going to be laying a bunch of these little tiny tidbits that came in the leaves. There was like a skeleton leaf, a regular leaf, some buds. It looks like one of the little Chinese lantern buds. There was just tons of these little tidbits, and I thought they would make a beautiful little background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line them up in quadrants, and I'm going to try to show how the We Are Memory Keepers Precision Plus Advance helps you stamp multiple places without having to move your stamps. So hopefully I can do this. I think I am a little off. I think if I did this in the center, it would have been a little better. So I do end up having to adjust this, but the concept is the same. You can ink it up, put it down, and do another quadrant. That's one of the nice features about this. Like I said, I wanted to show this also with a turnabout stamp. That way you can see these. That will be coming up in a couple videos from now. So right after we're done part 3, we're going to go into doing that. Because I want to show how to use a turnabout stamp. And I might even show you how to do it with my Stamp Perfect also. So you can see how to do it with a Misty also. Because I think it'll be very informative both ways. So I've done the first quadrant and I did it in my gold pearl from WoW. And now I'm going to do my second quadrant. Now I did notice when I laid out my stamps, I really should have done this in the center. So if you are going to do this in quadrants, please learn from my mistake. If you're using this, center it in the center of the platform. Find your center square and center it, because it would make it easier, and I wouldn't have had to, of course, do what I did. But lesson learned. Center it next time. So I've got this kind of set up where I want it. So I'm just going to line my paper up where I had it before. Trying to find the perfect position. One notch more. There we go. So now I should be able to do my quadrants. And yep, we're still on line. Yep. Alright, so we're going to do 2 more of these little quadrants with these little tidbits, like I call them, from the kit. Making sure I lined up. I'm going to use my anti-static tool so I don't get any sticking. And the fun thing about this platform too is I can flip it over and I can actually put the ink on in there. I just got to remember to do so because I'm so used to doing it with my Stamp Perfect that I haven't quite got the bugs out of using these yet. After using the same stamping platform for about a couple years now, I've kind of got stuck in the habit, and now I just got to get myself out of it. That's all. So I'm going to stick this almost in the exact place I had the other one. Let's squish it over just a tad bit. I think it was off a little. There we go. And use my anti-static tool again. Ink this baby up. I do like that I can show you my inking up on screen. That's one good thing about this platform. So definitely a plus. So here we go, last quadrant. But like I said, if you're going to be using this platform, I would recommend do it in the center. Center it as much as you can, do your quadrants. That way you can just flip it around without having to replace it and readjust and line it up. Now I'm going to take out the watercolors that came with this kit. I did this last time with my little flower vase that I had done. And this time I'm just going to do it over the gold, and it's going to resist the watercolor, and we're going to have that gold showing through. Because I wanted that to look very antique-y and gold and kind of really fun. It's a fun way to use watercolor because it makes it a lot easier to paint with watercolor. Somebody asked me last time where I got my watercolor, what kind of watercolor brushes I use. I use, honestly, the cheapest watercolor brushes they make. They're not fancy. I think I got them from Walmart. Just find a nice, usually the sable tipped are better. Don't go for the cheap little plastic ones. Get like a sable brush, something that has very nice bristles, because the other ones tend to fall out and you're just going to have a mess. These are nice because they are. I'll try to find a link to these and put it down below. I didn't do it last time, but I will do it that time. Or if you don't have access to those and you do end up using the watercolors from this kit, you can always use the little felt brushes that came with the kit. I didn't because I felt them to be very stiff. And honestly, a watercolor brush should flow with the water, and you should be able to get a nice fine tip with it. I got this set, I think it was 12 in a pack. It's very inexpensive. You don't have to go buy a $30 set. You can use any kind of watercolor brush you can find. Like I did say, stay away from the plastic bristles, and if you find mid-range is good. Like I said, nothing fancy. You're not going to use, unless you're using watercolor every day and you do watercolor painting every day, you don't need a fancy set. The majority of the middle grade kind of brushes work just the same as the higher brands. And I've had these, I think, for a couple of years myself. I do prefer using a brush over those little brushes they added. I mean, they're a nice little brush. I'll probably keep them if I'm ever in a pinch and I need a quick little brush. Grab that. But I found that they didn't help the super fine watercolors work better. They kind of made them worse. So I would definitely recommend, if you are going to use these watercolors, to, use a brush and some water. It works so much better. So now I'm just coloring in the little centers of these little flowers. We're almost done this panel. There we go. We're brushing around. These flowers and getting all of them all the little areas filled in. I did the center part a little darker because it's shadowed. So I used a darker color, and then I used the lighter color to go around it just to give it some dimension. And I'm even trying to put some on the dots. Now I'm just going to lightly go over this with a wet dry cloth just to get off the gold. Now I'm also going to take, I believe it's my brush corduroy, and I'm going to go over this and vintage this little panel out a little bit because I didn't want it to be so stark white, because I wanted it to be kind of neutral. So I'm just going in from the edges and moving lightly in, just so it's lighter in the center but darker in the edges. And there we go. That looks really good. I'm just going to go over this again just to make sure my gold is showing right. Wipe off any excess ink that's on there. Alright, so now we got that and my card form ready. I'm also going to take some, I believe it's from Ofray. It's a cotton kind of mesh ribbon. And let me line it up. And it's kind of a creamy color. I can always seem to find these at Walmart in their stores. I have yet to find it online or anywhere. But they are fantastic for card making, and especially if you wrote tape rollers, because they actually fit exactly on the tape rollers. So I'm going to put a little piece of foam behind it, and I'm going to attach this to my card form once I can get the tape coming out. I actually had to buy some refills for this because I am clearly out of that ad tech. So I'm going to put my stamping platform right on top of there, on that card from it, just to help everything sit. And I'm going to line up Thankful on this card, kind of to the edge over here. That way I can get it lined up straight. And I'm going to put that down in anti-static one more time. Perfect. And I'm going to do that in also the same gold. I missed a spot. All right. So there it is. I fishtailed both ends of this little banner I made. And I also attached some adhesive, Scotch adhesive squares down on it. And now I'm going to push it down on there. And I felt that it needed a little something to make that gold come out a little bit more. So I'm going to antique it with a little bit of that brush corduroy too, just to make that Thankful kind of stick out more. So now that we've got that done, we're going to add some Aurora Borealis pearls to this. And I'm just going to add them around the Thankful just to add some more color to that section. I've misplaced, once again, my little tool. It's somewhere in my crafting. I'm in the middle of actually renovating my craft room. So everything is right now in a little bit of a jumble. So if my videos seem like I'm dazed, looking out at things, messed up, it's because I'm doing this move in the middle of this. So you're probably saying, what is she putting her anti-static tool on? I am actually doing this on Vellum. So I am lining up where I want my little bows to be on Cutz card number 2. And I've already got them placed. And now I'm going to stamp them down. I am going to heat emboss these in the silver embossing powder from Hero Arts. And I'm going to show you the trick. The trick to heat setting on Vellum. You heat set from underneath. Do not try to do it from the top. It just tends to burn your Vellum. If you go underneath and you make sure your heat gun is extremely hot already, do not do it, sit there with it waiting for it to heat up. Let it heat up first and go underneath. I know it's kind of hard to see when I'm trying to do it in camera, but it's hard to do it underneath because the heat gun is blowing it up as I'm doing it. So sometimes it's hard for me to show you on there, but just do it underneath the Vellum. You have less chance of burning the top part of your Vellum, and you're more apt to actually get it all set. So there's a trick for that. So definitely a good trick to use. Now I'm going to make this kind of like stained glass. So I am coloring the underneath of the Vellum because honestly, it's very hard to color on the front part of Vellum. And if you do it underneath, even if it seems a little goofed up, it will look almost like stained glass. And it also protects it from rubbing off too, because Vellum is very slick and it will rub off. But if you do it on the underneath, it doesn't really matter. And look at that, you get a beautiful stained glass effect on that. It's a great trick also to use Vellum. Vellum can be a tricky substance to use if you don't know the tricks on how to use it. And this way too, you don't have to be super neat about your coloring because you're only seeing it on the underneath. So I'm just going to color, starting by coloring all the leaves and their stems, getting ready for the next color, which is the little Chinese lanterns that are on these plants. And I'm coloring these with my Arteza markers. I found for this series that I had more fun doing it with my Arteza than I did with the watercolors, only because I had more of a range of colors to use, and I wasn't stuck with just 6 colors. I mean, the watercolor kit they gave us was just nice, but I wanted to add some more colors to this, like this pretty blue, which we do not have. Now I have all the corresponding dies, and I'm going to die cut out these little branches in the space, and I'm going to stick them all together and make them into a bouquet. But before I do that, I've lined it up so that I have the Happy Autumn on the top, and I'm going to do that in the same silver embossing powder I did the outlines in. Way we match, and I'm going to wipe off all the leftover anti-static I have on there. And now I'm going to just use some of my glue and go underneath the colored parts, because it should not show, because it has that coloring on top of it, so it's not transparent anymore. It'll just look like it's part of the effect. And I'm using my Zig 2-way glue on this, so definitely fun. And there's that. So I'm going to weigh that down for a little bit while my glue dries. And I'm going to adhere inside a white panel. Because you have a black card, it always makes sense to put a white panel in it. Because, well, you can't write on black very well, so you might as well put a panel in so that whoever you gives the card can write what message they want in it. So now I'm going to take a panel of craft foam, and I made a goof up and I almost put it on the craft foam instead of the panel, which is not what I wanted to do, but it does not matter. Either way would have worked. You just had more of a chance of warping your craft foam than you do your panel. So now I'm going to stick my panel on top of my black card form, and I'm going to take some silver sunflower rhinestones that we have in the shop, and I'm going to embellish this beautiful silver stained glass looked little bouquet. I thought I'd go a little different this time than all the autumny colors we had going on in the past cards, and go something a little bit more icy. And I think it's really fun and beautiful, because you know what? For some people, autumn is fall colors, and some people, they just like the fun branches and leaves of it. Isn't that pretty? I really love this card. Alright, for the next card, I'm going to have some fun with the frames. So to begin this, we are going to put in the gold pearl from WoW, the little sentiment, bring color to my world, I believe is what I put in there. And I also put some stick it behind 3 panels of paper. The first panel is a craft panel, and I am going to go over this with my Distress Oxides and the Fossilized Amber to start with. And then I believe I'm doing the Orange Marmalade, or Spiced Marmalade. And I'm just going around in circles. I'm not concerning myself with the center because this is going to be frame cut. And now I'm coming in with the red, which is the Fired Brick. And lastly, I'm going to add a layer once again of the peeled paint. And I die cut that in a glitter panel with the leaf die cut. And then I also cut an oval out with the oval part. Now I'm going to make sure all my stuff is out with my Spellbinders Tool in one, and then I'm going to pull off all the stick it. This is the Ken Oliver stick it. It is a fantastic die cuttable adhesive, great for doing things like this where you have intricate dies. And this is just some beautiful, simple orange glitter paper that I thought would be really fun. And then this one is the one we just did with the Distress Oxides. And I die cut the same thing and put, of course, oops, sorry for the slanted view. I apparently knocked my camera. I don't know how I did it. Like I said, my studio is just a mess right now because everything's being moved around, and my area is a lot smaller than it used to be currently because it's in the middle of it. So we are going to just flip that over, and and we are going to put that on top of it in the opposite direction so that the patterns are opposite of each other. So you can see the orange underneath, and then you can see the other one. And then I'm going to frame it with this oval that came with the kit. I'm going to push that down. Now, I know you're saying, oh, there's overlap everywhere. I planned it that way. I would rather have overlap than underlap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up cutting the excess off. And then, like I said, I had to order some of my roller. So I am actually conserving my roller right now. And I did have a roll of Scotch foam tape, and I'm going to do that instead of doing the adhesive and foam on this card, just so I can conserve my roller till my new one comes in. It should be in by next week for the next video. But for now, we are going to do 4 strips of this on the back, which will give me the rays that I need for my panel, as well as, oops, let me get that straight, because this panel is actually going to be the size of my card form, so isn't that fun? And I just paneled that up. It's just making sure it wasn't top heavy, because sometimes when you put so many panels, I can do it. And this one, I'm just taking some of my, I believe they are a yellow colored Aurora Borealis rhinestone, and I'm going to use those instead of the red, because we have so much red going on in this card that I thought it would be better off using this color. And they are, I believe, in a 3mm. And I'm going to add a couple to the frame part too, just to make sure we have plenty of sparkle. And as you see, I found my silhouette stick-it tool. It was hiding in my craft room. And there we go. So for this next card, we are going to actually be making a frame, a window frame card. Now, I wanted to use this beautiful window, but I felt it was just too small. And I wanted to be able to make a scene behind it. So I'm going to make my own window frame just by putting 2 stitched stitch rectangle dies together. And I'm going to put this on some brown cardstock, and I'm going to make myself a window frame. And I'm going to cut some acetate to fit it, and I'm going to go around with my roller. And that's why I really wanted to conserve this roller, because I knew I needed it for this card. So I'm trying to do it in a way that would conserve it. So I'm just going to put that, and then I'm going to cut it free form, because I was trying to cut it before and I just think I wasn't going to get around it. So I decided to just do it with my scissors. That way I got nice rounded corners on them. And there's my window frame. So now I'm going to go around this with some Tombow foam adhesive strips, and we're just going to go crazy around it. And I had to cut them in half because these are very thin little frames. So now that that is all ready, I am going to take away some of the stark white by coloring it in with a marker. That way it doesn't look as white on the sides. And I'm once again going crazy on this with some of my Scotch, because like I said, trying to conserve the roller until the refills come in. But I didn't want to miss you guys on a video, so I said, why not just do some of this? I have it in my drawer. And I'm going to be using a kind of plaid, red, orange, and yellow plaid card form. And I'm going to be sticking this golden craft panel on top of it. It is one I had previously made. And I had decided that it didn't work. So I'm going to take some leftover panels from my Stick-It and put it underneath this panel because I know I'm going to be stamping the branches over. So I didn't want to contaminate my pad underneath it. I just stuck it on my little stamping platform, my We Are Memories Keepers platform. That way if I overstamped, it would get on the paper versus on the mat. So I'm going to ink those up. And then I am going to stamp it. And I'm doing that in Tuxedo Black. These are my little branches for my picture. So I was going to start coloring, and then I realized I need to make this look like a sky. So I'm going to come in with my broken china, and I'm just going to make a wispy sky with my blending tool. I'm not caring if it goes over, because my Arteza markers will color over it, and it will look brighter than the blue anyway. Plus, the more wispy it looks, the more it looks like a sky with clouds. So now I'm going to color these branches in with my Arteza markers and make them look really vibrant and put different colors on the leaves so that way they don't look kind of uniform, but more like what leaves look like when they're changing colors. We're starting to go through where I live in New England, and we're going through that right now. We're starting to see some areas of red and some areas of green and orange and yellow starting to come up. We always see the green and then the tinge of color on the edges until it gets to full color. And then I'm going to, of course, color this branch where the leaves are falling off. So I'm going to pull back my Tombow adhesive backing, and I'm going to have some fun making this little window. I was just going to be doing sequins, and then I realized I wanted to add some texture to this. So I decided to add some of the maple leaves, which we do have on our site. They come in multiple colors. So I'm going to find the ones that look kind of autumny colored, like greens and reds and oranges. And I'm going to stick them in here. And then I'm going to add some of my red Aurora Borealis sequins too in there, just to add some texture. And there's my little shaker window. And once again, I left the overhang so I could trim it off, because it works a lot better when you trim it off than to try to fit a smaller square onto there. Because honestly, you always have a hard time lining it up sometimes. And then I'm going to put that window in the center. Make sure all my adhesive is down. And there's my little card with the leaves in it. Isn't that fun? Looks around. Like this video, please check out the last uploaded video, as well as one specially curated just for you. And like always, we welcome you to click this icon to like, subscribe, and ring for notifications. And please sign up on the website also for our newsletters, where you can get crafty sales sent to you, as well as newsletters for the store.